It's time to change the conversation around women and wealth.
Women are more likely to have a stop-start career or have periods of time of not earning, so that without question that's impacting.
With 60% of wealth being in women's hands, that means that the jobs that we do are crucial.
They're so busy with young children, families, keeping their career on track, that often the finances of the home are dealt by their time poor. They've got that sort of mental load.
We start to help them outsource their personal finances.
And take that burden away from them.
Welcome to The Power of Good Advice, a series built on a simple belief. Good advice shouldn't be kept behind closed doors. Everyone deserves to have clarity, to feel confident, to build a prosperous future and to unlock the good advice that can lead you there. I'm Katie Derham and I'm joined by two leading experts from Evelyn Partners, Investment Management Director Tom Cadwallader and Financial Planning Director Tracy Browne. Hello to you both. In this episode, we're looking at why there needs to be a different conversation going on about women and wealth. And I would like to dive straight in because, Tracy, why, frankly, are we just not talking about wealth? Why is it women's wealth?
Whether we like it or not, there is a difference, and there is a significant gender pension gap. So by the time a male and female reach retirement, a woman has probably got about 50% available for pension income when they retire. So whether we like it or not, there is a real issue, and that is because women are more likely to have taken time out to raise a family or had to go part-time. And we're in a situation now where actually, because people are living longer, we're also maybe looking after young family and looking after elderly parents at the time. So women are more likely to have a stop-start career or have periods of time of not earning. So that without question, that's impacting.
And that must presumably have quite an impact on your job as an investment manager.
It absolutely does. With 60% of wealth being in women's hands, but 70% of women not knowing where to turn to for financial advice, that means that the jobs that we do are crucial. But it's one of those very British things that we don't talk about our finances. We might go to our friends for almost everything else, but we'll keep our finances to ourselves. Well, that's where seeking expert advice to help wherever you might find yourself is how we really as a country become better investors and get better outcomes.
And if you're listening or watching this and you're a woman and you're that figure of 50% of a pension pot compared to a man at the same age is ringing in your ears and you're thinking, oh my God. I mean, Tom, can you redress that balance?
Yes. And the sooner you act on that, the more impact you can have on that balance. Even if, you're coming up to starting to take your pension, it's not too late. You can still do something.
So we've been setting the scene, and I want to go into all the detail because I know that you've got a lot of great case studies and a lot of great stories to tell. But just to sort of set this up, what is the top line solution, Tracy? I mean, is there sort of one thing that we're going to be really sort of pushing for in this chat?
I would say, the main thing is knowing what you've got. Start by actually understanding what you've got today, and then we can assist on those conversations about where you need to get to. So if we're looking at more women having to take career breaks, having those sort of stop-start from their income generating, the earlier you can start having the conversation about what you need to do with your wealth and investing early has much better outcomes further down the line.
And I think, Tracy, the thing that we talk to clients most about is the biggest risk that anyone faces is standing still and doing nothing. Women are really good at subscribing to their ISAs each year. But what they don't do is think about what happens inside those ISAs. They maybe leave it as cash. And what that means over 30, 40 years is that the purchasing power of that cash halves. It will buy you less in the future than it can buy you today.
And I think sometimes women will look at, risk as a word sounds negative. Women may be a little bit more cautious at the outset. But if you explain and you talk to them about the risk of not doing anything, as Tom was suggesting, cash is a wasting asset. Over a period of time, the purchasing power of your cash will go down. And that's a certainty. So there's a massive risk of not investing. So our job is really to articulate and explain why you need to invest. And if we're looking at a period of time that you're not earning money, making sure that your money is actually working for you.
Let's just take it back just a step or two. Give me some examples of the typical frustrations that you get from your female clients when they come in to talk to you. What are the scenarios that normally you're dealing with, which you would identify as an issue around women's wealth or investment?
I would actually say that they're time poor. They don't have the time to actually look at their financial situation. They're so busy with young children, families, keeping their career on track, or running a business, looking after the home, that often the finances of the home are dealt by the man, not because they're not capable of doing it. It's just they're time poor. They've got that sort of mental load. And so we like to show what we can do by sitting down and mapping out where they need to get to, but actually taking the burden off them.
Yeah.
How do you do that, Tom?
There's always an expectation when we meet a client the first time that they need to come with all the answers straight away. And that's actually never really the case. We never need them to come with a full list of everything that they've got, or even all the answers of where they want to go. We want to sit down with them and understand who they are, what got them to this point, and what their biggest frustrations are going forwards. That's then when we can start to help with some potential answers. And being really personalised in that approach is what we're Evelyn Partners are all about, because everyone is different. Everyone has come into their situation in a different way, and everyone wants to get to a different place. I'm an investment manager, and so people seem to think that all I care about is just maximising returns. I don't want to maximise returns. I want to maximise the life that you live. And that looks very different for everyone.
Mm. And do you have then, presumably though, if we're talking about the very specific set of circumstances that could lead to women being less financially educated, less financially sort of successful, if you like, by the time they've coming towards their retirement age, presumably that sets up a whole different set of issues and challenges for you as an investment manager as well, doesn't it? If the pot's not big, there'll be lots of gaps. How do you mitigate that?
Absolutely. That's where starting the conversation earlier is always better. We sometimes deal with clients who have had a bereavement in their family, a spouse has passed away, and they've never been involved in the financial decision making. Well, they come to the table really not knowing anything that they have.
Or why they've got it.
Or why it's set up in the way that it's set up. And so being involved earlier is always better. But I'm really conscious that it's easy to talk about certain types of clients and women. We look after clients who are CEOs of businesses as well, who their entire day is full of what decisions need to be made in the business. How do we increase the profit of the business? What employee issues have I got? And so when it comes to their own finances, frankly, they've got decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And so where we come in is we start to help them outsource their personal finances.
Take that burden away from them. Yeah.
That would apply, I'm sure, regardless of whether you're a woman or not, wouldn't it? In terms
Exactly.
of,
exactly that. And I, like you, I don't like to pigeonhole, women and men. That they do cross over when you've got anybody spending all their time running a business. And Tom and I look after one client who's just sold his business, and actually now he's looking at his own personal finances because he's spent the last 20 years maximising the value of his own business. So it's not just a male or a woman, it's that time, the time poor.
And it's an interesting point. Obviously you've raised a couple of very interesting points about timing and the kind of life events where a woman might suddenly have to get involved in a way she hadn't been before. But I think, Tracy, one of the things which I find so interesting is you say you meet all these different women who come in lots of different circumstances, many highly educated, highly successful. And yet there is this almost willful lack of knowledge about what's going on in the household finances or the family finances. And that comes from it comes from education, doesn't it? It comes from what they saw their mothers doing or their grandmothers doing. Yeah. And that's going to take a little while, isn't it, to sort of reset that balance. This is a societal issue, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
in terms
definitely.
Of what your expectations are about how hands-on you are with what's happening with the family pension pot or the family ISAs or whatever it might be. So how do you deal with that when you're confronted with it?
So I think without question, we will review as an absolute minimum. Once a year, we will sit down with our clients and we will look at what we've got in place, there's change in regulation, what we need to do to adapt maybe a financial plan, look at the risk associated with investments, have the investments done what we thought they were going to do, is everything fit for purpose? Those annual meetings, and it might be that another client, we're speaking to every week for a period of time, something going on in their life, for example, but as a minimum, we will sit down and review everything once a year. I make it an absolute priority that the female partner, is involved in that review. And sometimes, the husband will say, oh, Barbara's not interested or Beryl's not interested. She's, busy doing. No, actually, why don't you bring, it would be great, even if she's going to sit down for 10 minutes and we'll just do an overview. But just getting the female party in the meeting involved, reviewing what we've got. And actually, it's that being part of that decision making. And I think you're quite right. Historically, it was sort of the man's job. He was the earner, and he would take care of the finances. But actually, it's a joint thing. And for those, the majority of my clients that I have the husband and wife in the meeting, they're party to it. If anything happens to the husband, well, the wife does actually understand what's there, why they've got it, how it's invested, and rather than a nasty shock after maybe a bereavement or a divorce, which we see, quite a lot of as well.
Absolutely.
I think you used a really interesting word through that, Tracy, which is risk. When we talk about risk, we actually mean that when you need to access your investments, they could have fallen in value. So why don't we just set up a plan that minimises that risk, but maximises the potential for a great long-term outcome? And when we do that and actually change the word risk for maybe opportunity. Or this is the best thing that you can do with this portion of your wealth for the next 10, 20, 30 years to maximise the potential of a good outcome, actually gets more people around the table thinking about how do we deploy our capital in the most appropriate way, rather than risk, we're going to a casino.
It just has such negative connotations,
Yes.
doesn't it, when we
Yes,
talk
it
about
does.
risk?
It does. And I think often women perhaps, well, again, here am I falling into those terrible gender stereotypes, but women being more risk averse perhaps than men. But then again, that's a societal thing, isn't it? It's that sense
definitely.
of
And I think it's
providing a
that
stable environment for the family or whatever it might be.
And I think it's risk aware, isn't it? I think if you can explain why we take risk, what's important, and obviously, just maintain your purchasing power, you're going to have to take some risk to achieve that. It doesn't mean to say that it's all on black, or we are, we're gambling with your money. It's a calculated risk, but looking at what you need in the future and what you're going to need to do and what does that involve? How much risk do you need to take for that end goal? Or, one of the things that we do is when we sit down is look at people's aspirations. What does good look like? What does their retirement look like? What do they want to achieve? And therefore, what risk, if any, needs to be taken with their money. And it's not necessarily that they just haven't had the experience. Give them the right tools, give anybody the right tools, take the jargon away, explain the risks of not investing, and empowering people to move forward. And yes, divorce, bereavement, awful situations, but it's so rewarding to then see in a year or two down the line people living their life and with confidence and with that knowledge.
We create such strong bonds with clients when we meet them in those terrible moments of their life, don't we? But then actually they just become great friends afterwards, and you then get to see the experience that your client example had there. Say now she's living a fuller life than she even deemed possible before meeting you. Well, that sounds like a great client journey to me.
So if people are watching this and thinking, oh, God, that really could be me, and I'm either 35 and earning a lot, or I'm 55 and looking at my pension plan, or I'm 75 and I've just lost my partner. It's, you are sitting there through the women's perspective who are people watching today. Can they reverse that inequity? Can we make it Okay. I mean, Tom, it's on your shoulders. Can you put right all the evils of the patriarchy, please? Right here, right now.
I wish I had that power to wave the magic wand and make it happen. But in our small way, we can certainly try. For those clients who do come and speak to us, without a conversation, we definitely can't help. And there are so many opportunities out there to be doing more with your finances, more with the money that you do have, and for us also to make sure that we are meeting you wherever you want to be met.
Yeah.
At whatever stage you're coming to us at, we'll have that conversation with you.
I think it's really interesting hearing this conversation because, I'm of a generation where I can remember my mother, who would now have been in her 80s, saying that her father had to open a bank account for her.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Do you know that's...
Yeah.
Women couldn't open bank accounts in their own name until about 1975 or in the 1970s or something, which is extraordinary.
It's just baffling to think of that now. I've got daughters in their 20s now. Is their financial outlook fair now? Would you say that an equitable situation has been reached, or do you think they still need to be wary of one or two pitfalls? What would you be advising a youngster coming into the market?
Well, I think for any youngster, whether it's a male or a female, is actually that educational process of starting young, starting small, but the compounded effect of investing from a young age. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And I still don't think there's enough financial education in schools. One of the things that Tom and I will do is also talk to we often have 3 generations of a family that we look after, and bringing the children into those conversations early is also really important. And I think one of the main things is just, start. Don't wait. Yeah. Don't hope for the best. Do what you can with what you've got as early as you possibly can.
Yes, 20 quid a week could do it, wouldn't
it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than nothing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, when you're 20, a pension sounds really dull, doesn't it? The whole word, the word pension sounds terribly.
I can't even begin to tell you how often I tell my daughters to just think how much money they spend on matcha lattes. And if they put that into an ISA now, they'll be thanking me in 30 years' time.
But it's having that, when you're looking at your outgoings, actually preparing for your future is something that you should be doing now while you're earning. Don't leave it. Wherever you are, start. Know what you've got, know where you're trying to get to, but actually do something and start, even if you can do a small amount. Say the compounding effect of that is quite powerful.
I often say to the children of some of our clients, you are extremely rich, but you're rich in time because you're in your 20s. That means that you could be an investor for the next 80 years. That power that they have is, if unleveraged, going to waste. And actually, it's the time that is going to be the biggest contributor to their wealth over time. I've also had another conversation recently with another daughter of a client saying, Tom, I know that me and my husband are going to have a child soon. I don't know how we're going to fund maternity leave. What do we do there? And so we've been able to put a plan in place with them to have a separate pot of money that is literally going to provide her salary for her for the year or two that she's going to take off work. And that has completely changed the game for her in how she thinks she's going to be able to afford those years, and also what maybe a transition back to work after those couple of years can look like. And that confidence that she's now got versus the uncertainty that she'd had before, well, it's transformational.
That is a great example, actually, because again, the sooner you take that little bit of control, the earlier you do that, the more choices you have. And
Exactly.
it's all about choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about giving
the more
yourself
options.
Yeah,
without question.
Yeah. I feel like we're singing from the same hymn sheet. And I have to say, there's a little note of regret in the hymn that I'm singing. I'm thinking all the things I probably should have done 30 years ago. But no, this is so interesting. And one message then just to round up then for particularly female clients or viewers watching or listening to this podcast, what would you want them to take away?
You don't have to have all of the answers on day one. You can come and have the conversation with us and we can help figure out with you what those answers are. You should have no embarrassment about not knowing exactly how much is in a given bank account, for example. That's what we're there for. But also, and to your point there, Katie, that maybe the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, but the second best time is today. Let's have that conversation today rather than continuing to put it off.
Yeah. How about you, Tracy?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's being aware of what you've got as a starting point. If you've not looked at the family finances, if you've left them to your partner, that's fine. But the next time there's the opportunity to review, be party to that, to understand what's there, why you've got it, what it's there for, and to be get involved in those conversations.
And don't wait for a crisis.
No, absolutely. I think that's exactly it. If God forbid, if something happened to your partner, whether they passed away, whether you get divorced or whatever, don't wait for an awful event to then have the overwhelm of trying to unravel or understand what was there. Be party to the conversations for the family finances. That would be my advice.
That thing about not being embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
So important, I think, because there is a bit of shame, I think, involved in, people, as you say, you meet CEOs who don't know what's going on with their household finances.
Definitely.
And I bet they feel a little bit
And
shameful.
we will always say, I mean, we as best as we can, we take jargon out of a conversation as much as possible. But no question is a silly question. There's no shame, there's no judgment. That I would say that's one of the things that we would always try to make anybody, whether it's a male or a female, actually, to not feel embarrassed about asking.
Any control is better than no control at all, right?
100%.
Lovely to talk to you, Tom and Tracy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining me for today's conversation, and thank you to my guests, Investment Management Director Tom Cadwallader and Financial Planning Director Tracy Browne from Evelyn Partners. If you would like personalised guidance or want to explore your own wealth management plans in more detail, then the team at Evelyn Partners are here to help. Just follow the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.